I know I'm going to regret this, but I have the best hack for finding vintage cameras.
So when I was in Berlin last year and I was walking around this outdoor market and there was people selling, vintage furniture, old frames, old paintings, and just old stuff, it kind of dawned on me all the stuff that's still out in the world. And when I stumbled across the two cameras that I bought last year, it kind of dawned on me the value of things in certain places in the world. And here in the States, vintage cameras have become really a hot commodity, especially amongst YouTubers and people that are getting back into film photography. And with all the YouTube vlogs and people talking about cameras, all it takes is one notable person, one influencer to mention one specific camera, and then that camera becomes really hard to get. The price goes up. So a big example is the X105. I was really into that camera before whoever made it famous on TikTok. It was readily available, and now you can't get it. Now we're at the X106, and we still have the same thing. And then we think about film cameras, you think about like the Contax series of film cameras. Super popular, hard to get, really expensive. Basically, once you get out of the States and you get to another country, you realize that not everything is a hot commodity. And basically what I've realized is that once you go to Europe and then once you get into the antique and vintage space, cameras are much easier to come by and the prices are way cheaper. And I think as a result of being able to just go on eBay, look up whatever you want, find it and buy it, the price is so much more expensive. But if you're somebody who travels a lot, who's in different, international cities, I guarantee that you'll find really great vintage cameras at an insanely low price. So that brings me to the secret world of Istanbul camera shops.
I just picked up the prints from the film that I dropped off after the trip, and it's always exciting to get the prints back and see your pictures printed. But after I did that, I always grab something to eat. Usually I go to this coffee shop that's over here, I'll grab a slice, or I'll go to Utopia Diner. Every time I go to Utopia Diner, I'm starving, so I don't think about the price. Turkey Club and Fries in New York City is $27. In no world is that right, and no world is that accurate, but every time I'm starving, I get hit with that price. It always pisses me off, but I digress. So during this trip, I took 4 rolls of film with me. I took 3 color and 1 black and white roll. And the black and white I shot in the camera I got in Kentucky. I was in an old consignment shop and they had this old film camera and it had a roll in it, honestly. And I shot the roll and it had 6 shots on it before, so I finished it. And when I dropped the roll off, the woman saw it. She was like, "Oh yeah, we don't develop film older than 30 years. At the time I was like, "Oh, I don't think this is 30 years old." And then she was like, "Yeah, they stopped making this film in like the 90s. So I get the film developed and basically they were super hazy, but you could tell they came out a little bit. But basically it was some woman's probably 80th birthday party, and there was a few pictures of her and this cake and this other woman. But it was a pretty cool story to see, 30-year-old film and what it looks like. So this is the second roll, and I shot Ilford black and white, and I'm pretty excited about these. I was really curious how they were going to turn out, and I took a lot of nighttime stuff too with these shots. And there was one shot in particular that I was really excited about. There was a guy on a motorcycle who flexed, and it just looked like a really old-timey image, and I don't know, he had a lot of pizzazz and spunk about him, and the photo turned out pretty good. Let me find it. Yeah, it's a pretty cool shot. Like, it just looks super retro. It looks like it's out of the movies, or it looks like it's out of the book, Bike Riders. It was a perfect moment. He was on the bike, he had the denim cutoff jacket on, crazy street scene behind him, and I think this is one of my favorite shots that I got from that night and from this roll. Or a few more pictures from the black and white roll. This is really cool, this abstract paper mache or this abstract origami installation that was hanging from the ceiling from this restaurant called Hodan. I'm a sucker for cafe scenes, so I love like the corner bistro, the corner coffee shop. It's never not a good photo. And these are a few candidates from that role. I love a crazy party scene with candidates from nightlife. Again, this is just my favorite photo. Panamax 35HS. At this point, this is my only consistent good film camera, and all it is just this cheap plastic little camera. I bought in Kentucky at the consignment shop, and this is what I shot the black and white on. But anyway, so these are some of the shots that I shot on the Panamax, and these turned out really good. I put an external flash on it, and they're surprisingly good. This was a painting that I love inside of a restaurant we went to. Tons of fisherman shots. Like, I'm a sucker for guys fishing. And then just more street scenes. So this was another roll with the Panamax. I'm also a sucker for restaurant workers sitting in back alleys. Something about the culture of restaurant workers. You know, some of these just came out extremely sharp. I love the color out of this Fuji 400 roll that I shot. These are these famous steps that were down the street from our hotel, but Istanbul is known for this little area. It's these windy, concrete, beautiful, gorgeous steps that lead up to sort of the next tier of the little neighborhood we stayed in. More mosques. This is the Hagia Sophia. I think this was called the Blue Temple or the Blue Mosque. This is a great shot of Istanbul from the bridge. Cameras I bought in Istanbul was this Ricoh, still in the original case. This worn out leather. It's so patina and it looks so good, but this is a gorgeous camera. So this is the Ricoh 300. And this is a rangefinder, or a really early rangefinder style camera. It's a 2.8 lens, fixed focal length of, I don't know, what focal length is this? 23 millimeter, I believe. Can't really tell. But it's a fixed focal length camera. And this was the one that I put a roll of film through. And it worked like a charm. Like, took really gorgeous pictures. It's really bulky. You can tell it was built well. They don't really, build cameras like this anymore. But these are some of the pictures that I got from this camera. So here are some of the images, more street scenes. Really sharp, great color, the glass was sharp, everything worked. Paid $50 for that Ricoh. Sort of a old world meets new world. People walking by on the street. It's one of my favorites. I love these windy roads that are in Istanbul, to where they're all cobblestone, they're all uphill, downhill, super narrow. It just feels like feels like you went back 500 years. So many beautiful old buildings built on top of new buildings. I think this was like one of the first shots I got out of that camera. It was just a test shot, but it's pretty sharp, great color. and not bad for a camera that was probably made in the 60s. So now I want to tell you the story of what I'm calling basically the secret world of Istanbul camera shops. Upon going to Istanbul, I really had this idea in my head based off the Germany trip that there's probably a lot of old stuff, including old cameras, that are just around in these places, in these European cities. And I say that simply because, a lot of those cities and countries are much older than the United States. Some of these places date back to, 800-900 years ago. And when I went to Germany, I really realized how old the city was. But going to Istanbul, I was like, you know what? I want to try to replicate the experience I had finding cameras. And I was on a hunt for camera shops, but what I didn't realize at the time was that what I was looking for wouldn't be in a camera shop, but it would probably be in an antique shop or thrift stores. And I think the first or second day there, Carrie, she found a camera shop and it had a lot of old cameras in it. So from that point, I thought I hit the jackpot, and they had a great selection of rangefinders, medium format, just all types of, great cameras, but it was a camera store, so they specialized in it. So their prices were a little bit more expensive than what I was hoping to pay. And after I left that camera shop, I went on the hunt. And as I was on the hunt, I just did a quick Google search about camera shops in Istanbul, and I came across an article that basically said that there was a secret underworld of camera shops. I looked up one of the places mentioned in this article that this guy wrote, and I found that shop, and I was so surprised and so shocked at this weird underworld of camera shops, but they didn't look like your average B&H Adorama or even a Best Buy. They looked like people's offices. And you go inside these buildings and it's like 4, 5, 6 floors of just what looks like office space. But when you go into these little offices, it's these guys basically selling, old cameras, binoculars, video cameras, film cameras. And I walked around to as many shops as I could find, and it was just really eye-opening. And it reminded me of back in the day in South Beach. You used to be able to walk down certain streets and there would just be endless, tacky tourist camera shop. And these guys that I really didn't trust. And, they were always trying to sell you something that they didn't have. And they were always trying to bring you in. It just felt, not good. These shops reminded me of that, but these guys weren't hassling you about coming in. It was almost like these guys had private businesses where they sold this stuff online because there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. And I was just amazed at the fact that this existed. But a couple days later, we were going to take a ferry to another part of Istanbul in this less tourist neighborhood, a little bit more artsy, a little bit more local. I was in this neighborhood, I just got the sense, and I said this out loud, I was like, I got a feeling I'm about to stumble upon gold. And literally 20 minutes later, we found this antique shop. And this antique shop, they were selling paintings, old silverware, old appliances, old clocks, just all kinds of stuff. And I had a feeling that this was going to be a place where I was going to find some pretty good cameras. And these old guys were just in there hanging out, drinking Turkish coffee and tea, just like they do. And they really weren't worried about trying to sell anything. They were just in there hanging out. This is just a place that they probably own, that they've had this junk and stuff for decades. And as I was walking around, I see this big chest of drawers, and I see just a big drawer full of old cameras in the old cases. And at that point, I knew that I had hit the jackpot. And I just couldn't believe it. And I took my bag off and I got comfortable. And I just started going through the drawer, opening up each camera, opening up to see if they worked, snapping the shutter, testing it. And as I was doing so, the guys, they just kind of warmed up to me. And a part of the culture of Turkey is that if you're in some place, a retail place long enough, they'll offer you tea, they'll offer you coffee, and you just sort of hang out and you talk. And they may try to sell you something, or they just may not care at all, but they offered me the real deal Turkish coffee, and I got comfortable and I started going through the cameras. And it was just really exciting. For about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, we were literally taken into another world. And just being in this antique shop and seeing all the old stuff and just, smelling all the old stories and just the archival nature of the kind of places that still exist. It was just astonishing, and just, you can't create these kind of moments, and I'm really glad that I had it. And the two cameras that I got from that shop was a Ricoh, and I got this brand I had never heard of, but it's called Bear. B-E-I-R, Bear. And both these cameras were in the original leather cases that are, very worn and tethered and with a lot of patina, but still in pretty good shape considering. And the other camera I got was the Bear. And this case is just beautiful, by the way. This is like stumbling upon an old vintage car. And this looks so Art Deco in its design, just beautiful. But it just goes to show that when you visit new cities, new countries, definitely go into old antique shops, because they sell more than just old paintings and old furniture. Usually they have boxes of stuff tucked away in the back, in drawers. And if you're pretty good at, building relationships and being nice to people, they'll let you see stuff that might not be on the floor, but they'll let you dig around as well. And luckily for me, I was able to dig around these drawers and find two really incredible, beautiful looking cameras that I think are going to give me some pretty great images over the next couple of years. I just got to make sure that I don't drop and break them like I did one of the cameras that I got from Berlin last year. But nonetheless, I'll have an update about what the pictures look like from this. And yeah,